What up, what up, what up? Hey, friends. Um, I'm gonna film a little video because I want to ramble and I don't want to edit this. Welcome to Morning Pages with Havlin Rose. That's me. I'm Havlin. I have another YouTube channel called or at Havy Speaks where I do more in depth movie and media analysis, TV shows, all that, all that. Pero I want to read something that I wrote. I want to do morning pages as a thing where like I kind of ramble and then read out my journal because if you're not familiar with morning pages, it's from The Artist Way. I have not read that book, but I know about it and I know people who have done it. And one of my friends kind of introduced the concept of morning pages, and that's basically, if you can't tell from the title, it's pages that you write stream of consciousness in the morning. There's some other elements to it, other things that are involved with it, that's supposed to kind of reprogram your mind or kind of loosen you up before the day. Um, but there is a topic that has been on my mind the past couple weeks about manifestation culture online, all things woo woo, or not really woo woo in this sense. It can be, it can't, whatever. Um, but I've been really into manifestation recently, and I wanted to read something I wrote for my morning pages. Okay, here we go. Let's just freeball it. That's not the word I wanted to say, but whatever. Today I want to film my first morning pages video. I think I want to make a video called Manifestation is Not Liberation and Why We Aren't Really Chasing Abundance. I think it would be an interesting topic because I'm actually neck deep in my manifestation bag. I love manifestation and I'm in a manifestation online group. Manifestation has done a lot for me. Not exactly on getting what I want so far, but I've spent a lot of time reprogramming my limiting beliefs and retraining my subconscious. I love a vision board. I love some affirmations. I love being in my imagination and doing guided meditation and envisioning my highest self. I love the concept of abundance and the many iterations of the word. So I really love what manifestation has opened up in my world. And I've seen the synchronicities and some of my manifestations come true. But on this online community, I've been noticing some patterns. One of my personal manifestations when I first started to get into manifestation was conjuring a partner. I really have gone my whole life single, and I really haven't been wanting a partner until recently. Part of it was reprogramming my limiting beliefs about what a relationship can mean to me, also rediscovering parts of my sexuality. I've also been I also have been wanting to manifest a career success and financial abundance. One of the online manifestation group that I'm a part of, that is a lot of people's goal, a relationship and financial abundance, which I completely understand and love to see. People chasing after what they want, and it's really cool seeing people be vulnerable about their desires, and I think that's so beautiful to be open to change and direct about what you desire. The more people post and talk about their desires makes me be like, hey, isn't it kind of weird that, and maybe coincidental, that while we are all currently in a post pandemic isolation crisis and an economic recession, that people are putting that their top manifestations are financial freedom and partnership. I just watched the movie Obsession 2 times the past 2 weeks, and I've also watched season 2 of yeah, so that's the word. And in both of these pieces of media, the depiction of love feels experimental and honestly a bit calloused and critical. Love is a part of social media, popular movies and TV shows, books. Our society has always been driven by partnerships, specifically marital and white picket fences, happy endings. A lot of our taxation systems are built on marriage. A lot of our music sales and concert tickets are pushed by songs about being in love, or toxic, or desperate, or pathetic, delusional, or being desired, or desiring somebody. It is so obvious that we pay so much attention to romance, but Gen Z specifically can barely look people in the eye and cannot afford to go out and club or afford drinks to pregame. And then that brings us back to the recession. All of that has made life almost unbearable without having parents to live with or generational wealth. We have so much that is holding us back because of all the limitations that our capitalist system purposely creates. Blah 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 blah. Right? Like, of course, the C word comes up, but that's almost a main part of what makes manifestation culture so frustrating. Is that a lot of people don't acknowledge the fact that they have been centuries worth of subjugation, displacement, slavery, isolation, prison, locking people up in cages for nonviolent crimes, extermination or of demographics, nature, culture, land, trees, and a lot of manifestation culture. I mean, kind of long winded. Is like it's your fault that you are poor and you need to get out of your victim complex. Like, damn, bitch, we are all victims. If you are not a part of the ruling class, you are a victim, and like the rest of us at one point have had to reinforce or deconstruct this capitalist brainwashing. There are so many aspects of manifestation that are spiritual, and that's some of my favorite parts. But so much of the online discourse is like the universe loves you, and if you love the universe, and the people who love the universe, hold on, and it loves you, the people who love it back, and you won't get the things you want. Hold on, what? Basically, being like, if you love the universe and it loves you back, then you will get what you want. And if you don't love the universe, then you won't get what you want, right? Right. I think that's true to an extent. I think having a good relationship to anybody or anything can be immensely fruitful. But like, what about the literal children who can't comprehend what the universe is and who are watching their families get taken away from them just because they were born in a different country? And the person who I was following their manifestation stuff was literally talking about how they can't, that was me quote trying to quote, um, can't get into politics because it's I'm not an expert, which is always a load of baloney to me. But this is what I mean about manifestation culture being a part of capitalist individualism. Like, it ignores the fact that people are really beaten down by these systems and they can't afford to spend a bunch of money on a manifestation course. And what does that mean that they aren't allowed to manifest their dreams? Okay, a major part of what I wanted to bring up is that I think going completely into westernized or Western manifestation culture, because that's specifically what I'm talking about, Western manifestation culture, is that I think manifestation culture pacifies us because if we are like the only thing I have to do is make a wish to the universe, then that's what's gonna solve all my problems. But I think true abundance is when we are excited or when we extend ourselves to our communities. Wouldn't it be actually abundant if you didn't have to be pushed into a corner to pay for a manifestation course or watch a million TikToks or this and that and the third? And the one thing that I think is cool about manifestation is that it is so focused on hope and love. But I was actually talking to my friend who doesn't do as much manifestation as me, and we were talking to me and my sister, or they were talking to me and my sister about our goals and expectations for the summer, which I've been practicing my manifestation rituals for. And my friend was like, "I'm really excited for you and your sister because they were like, we should hang out, we should explore the city together, we should do this, that, and the third." And hold on, this part of my journal doesn't make any sense. And they were like telling us that people always want to grow like this vertically, but I want us to grow like this horizontally. And I really resonated with that and made me be like, oh, that makes sense for manifestation. Like, so much about it is elevating and leveling up, getting more money, getting a bigger house, getting more followers, whatever. And the expansion is being building on top of one building block. But if you expand horizontally with community, think about all the things you can build with that type of foundation. I wrote that this couple of weeks or like a week ago before I was watching Love Island as consistently, and I'm listening to myself, I'm like, I'm sounding like sincere, and that's really scary to me. um um That's kind of corny. I literally say that's kind of corny. That's kind of corny, like the type of metaphors that they'd be using. Hold on, I already said Love Island on there. Maybe I should read the full sentence before I start jumping to conclusions. Um, but it would be fucking awesome if we could just live in a society where we had universal basic income, universal health insurance, so I didn't have to spend the time being by myself, hoping and praying that I can have financial independence. Oop, hold on. We all lived in a society where it was a given, or it would be nice if we all lived in society where it was a given that we could freely move around if places to new places if our residence or community doesn't suit us anymore, or we can have time to flirt and get freaky instead of graveling with how depressed and repressed a lot of us are due to our situation. And I feel like our chase for individual abundance in actually is getting in the way of permanent abundance, systemic abundance that has nothing to do with your individual spiritual rituals or practice. Everyone who believes in manifestation and people who don't, hope, 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 people, expansion, and compassion and love is true manifestation. So, let's try to talk about that. Again, I'm not editing this freaking video. If that didn't make sense, you know what I'm saying? But basically what I was like inspired me to write that was like I said, I've been in a online manifestation, you know, I don't know, forum, that sounds kind of 4chan, but like space, and there's people who are on there who are lacking of color. And when I listen to them and what they have to say about what they manifest, I'm like, I feel like there's a bit of a gap that I'm listening to, and I'm like, you guys aren't picking up what I'm putting down. And like, it's like, people talk about books on the space, and they're like this book and that book, and it always feels like the books they're talking about or their spiritual practices or their ideologies that they're gravitating towards always feel like individualistic, or it almost feels like they're excusing themselves or avoiding the fact that, like, there are reasons why we feel restricted, why we feel confused, and why we feel less than. Or, people talk about how they like want the dream body. And I'm like, what is a dream body to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are already ideas that are kind of drilled into our brains very young. What does romance look like? What does your dream body look like? What does your dream house look like? What does your dream life look like? And I think it's really beautiful to want to really go into what you want and to use your imagination. I'm always talking about how imagination is really important to liberation. Not here because it's the first episode, but I just think it's really cool for to see people who know what they want, and I think that's really been empowering to me, is like knowing what I want and chasing after it. But I have to think about all the ways that there's restrictions, and not exactly in a way where it's like I can't do this thing because there are restrictions. It's more so like I have to acknowledge that so it can expand my brain to, like, if I want to make community, if I want to grow in myself, horizontally, I have to acknowledge that there are systems in place to not let these things happen. Like, what do these restrictions mean? And part of my imagination could be like, I'm going to tear down these restrictions so that I know that it's not even a question for someone else who wants to have financial freedom or wants to make friends and, doesn't want to be boggled down by the constant stress of like, I can't afford to go out, I can't pay for gas, and there's ways you can budget and we can prioritize things and time management or whatever whoop de whoop, to be able to get what you want out of life. But I think it's always worth acknowledging that, like, there are reasons why so many people are unhappy. And I think my favorite part of this journal entry has been like, I think manifestation sometimes pacifies us, and I really think that is true. Um, Obviously, not true for everyone. Some people are able to be in this online manifestation space in real life or whatever, and years of spiritual practices and generation practices. But I do think, like, when I'm like, oh, I want this, I want that. I am like, if I'm thinking all the time that I can get whatever I want because I do certain rituals or whatever. Like that is cool in some regard, but it's also like I don't know. I feel bad that I'm like, oh, other people are just not manifesting properly and that's why their life looks like this. And I think like it shouldn't matter what your spiritual practices is, or what you think about manifestation, or what you think about God, or got my incense going, whatever, or whatever you think about these things. It doesn't feel right to be like, because you're not practicing these things the way you should, you don't have the abundance mindset, and that means that you should be stuck where you are, or that you should be left behind, or that it's okay to see people be blown up across the world, have their kids taken away, their parents taken away, their breadwinners taken away. Like that shouldn't be okay. And it feels almost like Christian evangelicus a bit. I don't know if I said the word properly, but being like, you're not listening to the gospel of manifestation, so that means that you should suffer, or it's almost excusable for you to suffer or to not get your dream job or whatever. What the fuck is a dream job, shorty? You know? I know there was like a whole trend a couple years ago being like, I don't dream of labor, but genuinely, like, man, I always am talking about in my personal life how capitalism shrinks our brains. And part of manifestation for me so far has been like, it expands my brain. And I love the fact that I think like abundance is expansion. Um, but I do feel like, what was I talking about? Lost my train of thought. But yeah, I feel like it shouldn't matter like who you are. I think you deserve, it is your birthright to be happy. And part of me is like, that's really important to know. And you should deserve to be happy. You should never be feeling guilty about feeling happy, because that is your birthright, right? But also like empathy empathy over guilt is really important, at least for me. It's like definitely changed the way I think about a lot of things. Is like empathy is where what I should be grabbing towards, rather than shame and guilt, because if I can guilt and shame myself out of something, I literally have the best life ever. And if I was like, you dumb bitch, you dumb fat bitch, go work out, I would literally be a bodybuilder. Okay? So like shame, guilt is stupid, and I'm always saying that. I'm always saying that. Bitch, have I ever talked to you before in my life? Anyway, but yeah, manifestation has me thinking. I'm talking so fast, I'm sorry. But manifestation has had me thinking like, what does imagination mean? What does it mean to go for your dream life? Should your dream life be individualistic? And it's also like, I've read some sermons from Martin Luther King, and he talks about like individualism. We're both individual and community like organisms, and we like have our own bodies and our own self containers, for a reason. And the fact that those bodies, these brains, can connect us all is like a great reason to love life as well. So yeah, I fear that manifestation makes me feel like I always get scared that I'm like only worrying about myself, and especially in a world that is so like it suffers so deeply because so many people think that way, where they're like, I need to get mine, I'm worried about getting mine, I'm worried about what I want elevating vertically. um but yeah, I don't know. Like, let me know what you think about manifestation, because I'm really trying to say this in like a way where I know that I really appreciate manifestation. And there's so many ways to like attack manifestation, whether it's like paganism or hoodoo, or like just like West African religions and numerology, and like just classic or like Abrahamic religions and stuff, praying, all of that is and under the umbrella of manifestation, I think. Or there's so many iterations and words for manifestation. But yeah, I've just been thinking about that a lot, and I fear that I manifest like my compass for manifestation, I feel like is always changing. And I hope other people question it too, because it's really easy to just be like, oh, well, I got this new thing or whatever, whatever. And that makes me feel like I'm a powerful manifester. And this, I'm not saying this to be like, oh, you have to feel bad for wanting things for yourself. That's not what I'm saying at all. You should definitely want things for yourself. And I find that really important, especially as somebody who has like that guilt feeling and that conscious or like that constant, am I doing some things good enough? It's my anxiety. It's my anxiety. So keep that in consideration. But it is damning that the society that promotes individualism looks like this, and the qualities that we share with each other that are so damning stem from like white supremacy, individualism, capitalism, whoop de whoop. So yeah, that's all I have to say for real about manifestation. I feel like I have more things to say, but I'm going off the dome and my mouth is starting to get dry. Comment down below what your favorite incense are. I'm like seeing it in the back. I've really been into incense, baby. I'm burning bayberry because I'm trying to get that money. um, but that's another thing. It's another thing because you also have to buy shit to be on spiritual shit. Like the fact that I'm like, oh, I gotta buy herbs and I gotta do this and that and the third. And I also like even if I don't want to get it from an herbalist or a shop or whatever near me, I would have to buy seeds to get into this shit. And it's like that's another part of manifestation or spirituality that you kind of have to buy your way into, which I hate. Like I'm always talking about how if you live in a small town, a rural town, and you're like gay or something or liberal and something, and excuse me, if you kind of deviate from your hometown. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. The sounds I'm making. If you kind of deviate from the culture of your own town, you're like, I want to live in a place that represents and reflects who I am or who I want to become, right? You're like, I'm leftist. I want to be able to join communities that fight for liberation of all races, all people, right? You would have to buy an apartment or sublet or freaking, whatever into a new city. Cause what the hell? Like, you don't have to, but like if you're in a place that is directly against you and your personhood, then like of course you're like, I want to move out. And like I feel like that's so fair. But like why do we have to buy? Why do I have to be like, oh well this block I don't really like. These people who are really scary are here. But I have to buy into that, or I have to buy herbs, or I have to do this, that, and the third. Why am I buying things to be happy? And then that brings it back to manifestation. I'm just kidding. I want to say goodbye now. But seriously, manifestation. Why do I have to buy things? Period. This isn't working for me. Okay, I started rambling. Thank you for listening to the first episode of Morning Pages. I don't know when I'm going to post again. I don't even know if I'm going to do this format again. But, knock on, I have a freaking Substack at Havy Speaks, Rosemary Diaries. Yeah, that's my vibe. And my Instagram is at Havlin Rose. Yeah, check me out. Site shit. Okay, have a beautiful day. Enjoy your time. Eat some good food. Listen to some music. Meditate. And I'll see you next time. Bye.